On this episode of AV Week, Warren Buffett looks to buy a distributor of AV products, looking at the diversity of the AV industry and getting into healthcare. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 433, recorded Friday, December 6th, 2019. The smell of money.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Peerless AV, driving technology through innovation.
And by
Extron, industry-leading technology backed by world-class support.
And by
Vadio, makers of the new NDI professional broadcast camera, the RoboShot 30E NDI.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week. Last time I saw her, she had long red hair. So my buddy Dawn Mead with a very cute, was that called a pixie cut?
Yes, it's pixie cut.
I like it. Cool.
I'm growing to like it. It's been a challenge. I've tried to take down my ponytail about 17 times since I had it done. But yeah, it was a matter of necessity. I am currently handy-capable due to some shoulder surgery. So it was either this or just like crazy banshee hair with mats and knots, and it was better to cut it all off.
I understand. I probably would have gone the same way. So, also with us is we'll stay in the Eastern Time Zone, Mr. Dan Gundry from Vistacom. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. I think you're going to go hair larger to
smaller.
Peter, is that what it is? Yeah.
If you're not watching the video, that's actually fairly accurate.
Where are we heading now?
Because Peter Herr, who is just north of me in Chicago, is from Sure. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Tim. Glad to be here.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess we all four have short hair. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's all fine.
Yeah.
Let's kick this off and get this going so we can get our weekend started. First article comes to us from our friends over at AV Magazine. The headline kind of says it all. Warren Buffett is bidding $5 billion for Maverick AV owner. The Sage of Omaha says he understands the company's role as a middleman, but was outbid by investors at Apollo Global Management, whose offer was accepted by Maverick owner Tech Data. Legendary owner Warren Buffett bid $5 billion for the company that owns Maverick AV before being outbid. One thing he said he wants people to understand: it was our kind of business. It's one you can understand, meaning that the moving products from point A to point B, meaning a distributor. Dawn, I want to start with you on this though. When folks like Warren Buffett, and yes, he is a name, and yes, somewhat of a celebrity when it comes to the financial industry, and one of the richest men in the world, he starts coming knocking on AV's door. This is something that we have been talking about for a number of years as more and more investment firms and more investment banks get into this industry, meaning they're buying up integration firms, they're buying up manufacturers, they're buying up distributors now. What does this say about the health and the future of this industry?
I think it's pretty clear that this is a further sign that after 75, 100 years, how old is this industry really? We finally made it as an industry. People are realizing, because we are everywhere and so ubiquitous, now they're starting to realize, wait a minute, this is a thing. There are people that make money doing this. There is a knowledge bank, and there is a skill set that's involved, and that this is something that is worth investing in. For many years, I mean, just in my career, and I like to think I'm not that old, I've had years of my mother saying, what do you do for a living? I think she sells TVs or something, and people think I work at Best Buy. They don't know that we're an industry. And so now we're starting to get the cred from not just the IT world, but the greater world beyond just IT that has to work with us, that, hey, AV technology is a thing. It's a very specialized thing. It takes a lot of time and money and energy and brain power to do it. And we want to invest in that and be part of it because it's where the world is going. And if you look around, I mean, I've said it since I started in this industry. Imagine if you woke up tomorrow and there were no AV products anywhere. No telephones, because that's speakers and mics. televisions, those are monitors, of course. You could have IT, sure, you could have boxes doing computing, but you wouldn't have any inputs or outputs because you wouldn't have a monitor. It just is so entrenched in our life. And I'm really happy to see that this acceptance is coming, so that maybe in the future we won't have such a difficult time recruiting people to our industry and explaining to our parents and grandparents what it is we do for a living.
Yeah, one of our mutual friends, Rich Fregosa, still tells his parents that he fixes VCRs for a living. So there is that. Dan, when companies start like Mr. Buffett's and others start looking at our industry and start picking up the bigger fish, I guess, just to say this in the nice way, because $5 billion is nothing to shake a stick at. What does that do for the folks that are kind of farther down the chain? Maybe you're not worth $5 billion, but maybe, hey, you know what, you're worth $500 million. So what does that mean for those industries and for those, not those industries, but for those companies that are, maybe not as profitable, but they're still profitable as they're looking towards either to transition or to, for a succession plan to either pass it down to the next generation or to get out?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You've already seen that, right? With I think it's Marlin that owns Whitlock, and HIG owns AVISPL. So it's happening with the largest of us, but we're also seeing it with other companies that are in that maybe $25 to $50 million annual revenue areas. You brought up an interesting point about succession, right? And I think that's becoming a real concern of those second, third generations is, hey, listen, we don't have that third generation that wants to take over or is ready to take over the organization, but it's a thriving business, it's a growing business, it's a business that makes sense to stay out there. What do? We've seen mergers and acquisitions. We've seen private equity come into the industry. I think it's good for the most part. I think the one thing that when I read the article, the first thing that popped into my head was we're waiting for a true disruption in the AV world. And we're going to speak about that a little bit later on. We start talking about diversity, at least the way in which Steve Greenblatt talks about it. But I think that what we need to be careful is not the right word, but aware of is that one of these outsiders is going to come in and really just blow up the way that we do business. And we need to be as ready and prepared for that as possible. And if that means partnering with private equity and private dollars to be able to do that, I see that as a good thing.
Peter, when it comes to some of these bids, and I mentioned the fact that Mr. Buffett was outbid, he had put the bid in for $140 a share, which was the company was valued at $130 a share. The folks that won it eventually, Apollo, had eventually put their bid in for $145, and I guess most likely that's when Mr. Buffett said, "Okay, I'm out." Do bidding wars like this, or not? I shouldn't say bidding war, but conversations like this where you do have folks that are bidding and raising the prices. Do you think that hurts or helps our industry? Because sometimes there are tendencies for bids to go a little bit more than what they maybe should.
Right, like the overvalue issue.
Yes.
Yeah, I think. I mean, bottom line, I think these outside firms that are showing renewed interest or a new interest, I guess, if you will, in the industry is they're kind of following the money. I mean, they smell something, and I think they know the growth potential. They know that there's I love the note that he mentioned. He knows the business. He knows he understands it, but he has no idea about the products, and that's kind of the sideways view of it. But I think that the revenue potential, the growth potential is unsurpassed. I mean, just in my experience alone here at Shure, what we've been able to experience specifically in this segment that I work in for integrated systems products, it's been tremendous. It's been a wild ride for the 20 years that I've been here. And that the reason is that there's a lot of industry growth and potential, and, albeit some consolidation as well, but it's kind of like a rocket right now. And I think that the word is getting out, basically.
Let me ask a dangerous question here, and none of you can answer it if you don't want, or all of you can answer it if you don't want, if you want. Is this the last time we've heard from Warren Buffett in our industry?
I'd like to say no.
Okay.
I
agree with you, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as Peter says, follow the money. And every time we get one of those great little forecasts of financial growth from AVIXA based on, all of their metrics, we're going higher and higher. And companies like, the large investment firms and people like Buffett, they follow the money. Although, Peter, I got to say, I resent the fact that you think we smell. But I hope you meant the smell of money, not
the smell of money is what I meant. Yes, exactly. Because we all love that, right? Come on.
Thank you so much for watching the first segment of AV Week 433. To see the entire episode, where we talk about healthcare, AV, and diversity in the audiovisual industry, click on the link below or go by the website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv.